So we've got a lot of cool stuff to show you today. Today we're going to talk about the affinities in Beyond Earth. There's no system like affinities in Civilization, and it's a system that we get asked a lot about here at Firaxis, and the designers will tell you they get asked about a lot. So we thought we'd take some time today and work through them and tell you what the affinities are and how they affect the gameplay. And we have some things to show you about what they look like in the course of doing it too, so it should be a lot of fun. A couple of quick things before we get started. This weekend is PAX Prime in Seattle, so if you are going to be out there and you've got some time on Saturday between 12:30 and 1:30, head to the Sasquatch Theater because Dave and Bill, the designer, one of the gameplay designers, are going to be doing the semi-annual Firaxis Mega Panel, and they're going to be talking about Beyond Earth. Now, you guys have a lot of cool things to show for that.
Yes, we certainly do.
Yeah.
We've got a whole demo lined up showing a lot of the middle and late game, a lot of stuff that the internet, the community at large, has not seen before. A lot of fun stories, a lot of behind-the-scenes kind of anecdotes about development on Beyond Earth and its design. We're really looking forward to seeing everybody out.
So, yep, definitely come and check it out. Also, September 27th, Firaxicon. Thanks to you all, we've sold out in a week. So we might have some tickets come available later on. We're going to look to see if we can squeeze out a few more. And if we do want to go, definitely pay attention to social media, Twitter, Facebook, the interwebs, and we'll let you know. But thank you guys very, very much. We're really looking forward to it. If you're coming to Firaxicon, you'll have an opportunity to play Beyond Earth a month before everybody else in the world, which is very, very exciting. And play some games with the teams, get to hear the teams for XCOM and Civ, talk about, all sorts of things. The games, how they went about creating stuff in XCOM and Civ. A lot of gameplay, design talks, should be very cool.
Yeah.
Dinner with Sid, should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, Firaxicon, that's very cool. PAX Prime, two big opportunities coming up. But we're going to get into affinities now. And affinities are in Beyond Earth as a new system. So why don't you go ahead and explain kind of...
Okay, well, it could be a sort of a long story. Affinities are kind of one of the big foundational ideas in Beyond Earth. And I know we've talked a lot about them in interviews and in media about the game. So to start sort of back at the very high level again, affinities are sort of an attitude or a philosophy of what civilization ought to be in the future. Particularly in the context of civilization on an alien planet. So not Earth civilization, but humans, wherever they go in the universe, this is who they should be. And to anchor this idea, we chose three sort of dominant strains that represent a collection of perspectives on what the answer to that question might be, which we call purity, supremacy, and harmony. And in the context of the game, these represent kind of a holistic game progression of who your civilization is and where its power comes from. And also how you approach the problems that you face, whether those are how to use the planet effectively and survive on it, or deal with the aliens, how to compete with your neighbors for territory and resources, or ultimately how to win the game.
And it's important to point out these affinity touches on pretty much every system in the game. So just like research is entangled with everything in Civ and growth is entangled with everything in production, affinity is a system that you will see recurring through the course of the game in all sorts of different ways.
Yes, absolutely. So you gain progress in your affinity by doing well at the game's various systems, and that in turn helps you do better at it. It leads directly to the increased strength of your cities and military units, to the operation, the devotion to affinity. Yes, all the way through the game, this common theme or common current of how your game is going is sort of all driven by the affinity that you choose.
So, I guess let's start with supremacy, because I think supremacy is an interesting idea. It's the idea, and you explained it to me as the idea that you need to be independent of the world that you're living on.
That's one way of looking at it. So, since affinities are sort of in between an ideology, a philosophy, and to some extent a religion, they can start very, very conceptual. And so, supremacy is sort of its very name and its foundational idea comes from the thought that humanity's strength and salvation comes from its ability to make tools, that our technology is best about us, really. Like, that's what got us off of Earth when we needed to leave, and it's what's going to save us again whenever something else bad happens to us. And so in this way, we say technology will be our salvation and our guide no matter where we are or what we do. So it doesn't really matter what planet we're on or what year it is or any of that, as long as we have the technology to protect ourselves and continue to progress. So this is expressed through a lot of, I guess you say, kind of heavy metal style technologies like robotics or computing or artificial intelligence or artificial sentience, like brain uploading and crazy things like that. But fundamentally, it's the idea that tech is what we're good at and what we need to stay good at in order to be safe forever after.
So let's go ahead and we're going to actually load into a very late game with visions of the future here. And this save comes to us courtesy of Firaxis's QA department and Carl, who is the QA lead on Beyond Earth. So thank you, Carl. This is really a pretty cool save. So we're going to jump into a game where Brasilia is rapidly pursuing either an emancipation victory or domination victory. It's a little hard to tell right now. We'll go ahead and we'll jump into the game here. So as we begin, we'll zoom in here on the capital city of Ciudadela. And we'll show you, well, there's all sorts of cool stuff here. So you can really see some of Supremacy's units here. We've got the Saber, and this is, so by the, oh, and he's actually renamed his faction after himself, Line, which is pretty funny. So the Prime Saber, this means he's gone very far down the Supremacy route. He's not trying to kind of cross with another affinity for this, correct?
How thoroughly Supremacy-ish his city looks. So there's many ways in the game that your affinity is expressed. Some are aesthetic and some are mechanical. Your city buildings and your city look will take on the look of your affinity or your affinity blend if you're sort of midway through the game and haven't quite gone dominant in one yet. So you can see the sort of gray slate glowing orange theme to his city, and it's almost universally like that. That means it means any player who was going to scan over this terrain would be able to say this guy is 100% Supremacy. He's all Supremacy.
So the Saber is a ranged combat unit. It's a pretty good one as far as I remember. It's a pretty strong ranged attack, but like most ranged units, it falls apart pretty quickly on the melee side of things. He's got some Supremacy cavalry.
Regular
here.
cavalry, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then over here is another Supremacy unique unit. This is the Carver. It's actually facing kind of over here to the northeast a little bit. Right. Looking at the back side of it, you can see of the rest of Supremacy artillery. That's pretty neat. And over here, he's got an Angel. Now, we've talked about how the different the different affinities have kind of a capstone military unit, and the Angel is Supremacy's.
Yeah, it's their ultimate unit. So all of their very best unique units, Supremacy unique units, are robotic. They have no human components at all, with the exception of the Angel. The Angel is a mech, so to speak. It's a machine that has a human brain uploaded, so a human consciousness driving, which makes it significantly more nimble, sophisticated, and powerful than its predecessor units like the Carver or the Cinder, which are just artificial robots.
AI frames.
Right. So the Angel is Supremacy's kind of skeleton key. It's a very powerful, very agile unit that has both a ranged and a melee attack, can crab, can shoot without setting up, can do a variety of things that, of roles in sort of any battlefield situation. So a Supremacy player could build a squadron of Angels or an Angel as the anchor point of a battle group and sort of just send them off on their own and rely that this squad or this group will be able to handle just about anything to some degree of success.
Yeah, I've highlighted the Cinder. This is one of Supremacy's early unique units. This is primarily a defensive unit, is it not?
Yeah, that's their earliest unique. It's sort of like their, the Mark I battle robot kind of thing, and so they're not very sophisticated or agile, but they're tough. They can take more punishment than a squishy organic unit could, and so they tend to do well as guardians or sentinels of your territory. If you want to use your robots to invade, you want to get to the next level, to the Carver.
Yeah, and then we got 2 more Angels over here by Santo Adriao, all ready to go, which is pretty impressive. So there's one more thing I want to kind of point out here. We're going to zoom out, and just real quick, I want to thank our friends at AMD who provided us this game. We're showing it on the Mantle executable, which is why we're getting such fantastic performance out of it. That's one of the things we're very happy about for Beyond Earth. So orbital view, let's begin with this. Real quick, this blue ring, so Carl has clearly invested very heavily in orbital supremacy. But one of the things that I thought was very cool is over here near the AR City, capital of Central, there's this little bump out in his orbital coverage because of Phyrexite.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of, in addition to sort of governing the unique units and unit upgrades that you get, just having devotion in an affinity gives you a sort of persistent advantage, like utility from Civ 5.
Right.
And one of natural to produce orbital coverage. So you can find once you get to this level of supremacy that all of a sudden you have the ability to plunk satellites farther than anyone else could, all the way on the other side of the world, anywhere that there is unimproved Phyrexite. So in this particular case, we are lucky that the Phyrexite is so close to a potential competitor's capital city, and that they have yet to claim that plot and improve it to the point where it would be troublesome for us.
Yeah. And talking to Carl earlier, which is pretty funny, he's got a satellite ready to go, a phasal transporter, which is pretty cool. It sends a unit on a one-way trip anywhere within the orbital footprint of that phasal transporter. Now, if you are thinking ahead like a Civ player, you might say, look at all of these units here and this Phyrexite deposit over here by ARC.
Gee, I wonder what we should do.
I wonder what I'm going to do with that.
Yeah.
So, and in case you wondered what he's been doing with that, here's Tiangong, the once capital of the Pan-Asian Cooperative, and now a satellite city for Brasilia. So, supremacy, very good in the orbital configuration. Really a faction about positioning on the battlefield and taking the advantage of that kind of for best advantage.
Yeah, so
let's actually jump in on a unit that's a good illustrator.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll choose these Redeemer here.
The cavalry. The 3 eyes have been upgraded times.
Oh, go ahead.
Not too far.
So plus 20% when flanking, plus 20% when next to a friendly unit, and plus 30% when flanking. So plus 50% on the flank, and an additional plus 20% when next to a friendly unit on a combat strength of 60.
Right.
That's pretty good.
So it's important to note, though, that doesn't mean, like, supremacy isn't necessarily more awesome than anyone else in military. They're not the military affinity. All three affinities are just as powerful as each other on the battlefield. Supremacy's particular advantage comes from things like this, where their inherent combat strength might be a little lower, but can actually go significantly higher than a comparable unit from another affinity when used with finesse, used cleverly. And this kind of plays into their playstyle of precision, of maximizing reward for the effort expended, really heavily improving your territory and using it to the utmost. And when you are prepared to fight, doing so in a very intelligent, shall we say, surgical or robotic way, where you know exactly what you're going to do, your plan comes off flawlessly, and assuming that it does, you can launch devastating attacks on your opponents.
And then supremacy victory is what patient is Earth. So explain how.
Build the warp gate, which is sort of the end of a several-step process quest that will take you most of the game to complete. And the warp gate is a planetary wonder, which means it's a wonder of such gargantuan proportion that it requires an entire tile to occupy, and will sit out on the map and operate, and it is its own defensible structure. It's its own thing out there.
We'll actually see a warp gate when we go to look at Purity.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, Purity also builds a warp gate, but for a different reason. So the Supremacy warp gate is one way here back to Earth, and their aim is to spread the philosophy that and the insight that they've gained, becoming Supremacy, basically figuring out this better path for humanity, salvation through technology, back to our home planet, where people are still hopelessly backwards and living in pain and suffering. We're going to go emancipate them from that backwards existence. And that involves sending your military units, committing them to the warp gate and sending them back to Earth to,
liberate.
Establish the necessary sort of security and order that you would need to accomplish the mission to win the game. The objective is completed.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close out of Supremacy right now. Let's come back. And let's talk about the next. While we get our save ready, let's talk about the next affinity. Let's talk about Purity. Purity is an interesting idea. It's the idea that the future of humanity is the present of humanity, I guess, in a sense.
And the past. It's they're preservationists or traditionalists, I guess. The purity and the very name comes from the fact that they believe that humanity has a responsibility to remain essentially human wherever we go. That it's too tempting, for instance, to look at an alien world and say, we are the problem here. We're not right for this place. We need to fix ourselves somehow by adding technology or by adapting, as in the case of Harmony. Those are the wrong perspectives. It's not that we're the problem. Everybody else is the problem. So when they go to a new world, they want to make that world the world for humans, not make themselves the people for that world.
Right.
And that's because they believe, essentially, that humanity is inherently beautiful. We're like, angelic creatures, and we are. We've come this far. We clearly have a beautiful, buoyant civilization. Great history and culture. They invest a lot of their effort in infrastructure and things like archivism and social dynamics and cultural development. They have a very strong incentive in kind of preserving and celebrating what has made humanity good all along, all through our millennia of history, and celebrating humanity in its present state, making sure that remains pure.
And their victory condition involves bringing human settlers to this alien world and setting them up and saying, hey, we've created this new Eden for you. Come and eat your fill and drink your fill of this new planet.
Yeah, right.
So let me talk a little bit about this. This is actually my game from yesterday that I was playing. I was playing as the Kavithan Protectorate. This was a fun game. I didn't think I was going to start out as Purity, but my initial landing site, there was just one little floatstone resource there. It wasn't enough to sort of sway me, but exploring around the world a little bit, there were quite a few floatstone resources down around this area. So as I started to expand, it became more and more obvious that was going to be the strategic resource I had the most access to in the course of the game. And then I had the misfortune of settling or having the American Reclamation Corporation land right next to me. The ARC is, how should we put this, aggressive in their expansion?
They're ruthless. They're just very very pragmatic. If the calculus says that you need to get out of the way, they'll get you out of the way.
So we had a hostile takeover, if you will, and then as the game continued, Samatar Jamabare of the People's African Union, he turned out to go towards purity himself, and he was somebody that I had a pretty friendly, long-standing relationship with. So I knew this was probably going to be the area I was going to need to settle the settlers, because Bahrain wasn't going to be so much of a problem. And my nearest competition is over here across the ocean. Australia, the Slavic Federation, and Franco-Iberia were having a three-way war on their continent. Once I started to go for victory, it was just a matter of making sure there were enough naval units that a preemptive invasion could be sort of thwarted before it got to the shores. And then I brought some units back over here to help protect the settlers, because we had some alien hives respawning. But I just wanted to point out a couple things real quick. First of all, here is a Lev destroyer. This is a true Lev destroyer. This is Purity's most awesome military unit. This is one of my favorites in the game. This is, Will Miller described this as what? A floating fortress that's covered with guns.
Yeah, floating castle with guns, right.
Yeah.
It's basically
very subtle.
It's a land battleship.
Yeah. Kind of reflects Purity's aesthetic well. There's a true Lev tank. That's another unique unit for Purity. That's very handy. You can see, it may be a little hard to see on your guys' screen here, but you can actually see Bahrain's cavalry is starting to reflect his devotion to purity as well too. So his units look a little bit like mine in that khaki and red color scheme. But most importantly, we have these human settlements, and these support up to 6 settlers.
Right. And
you need to get 20 people onto the planet. So this is the turn before I win. I think actually I can win by just pressing a thing, but getting those settlers in place and bringing the armies over sort of to discourage hostile aliens from coming over, and actually, frankly, to prevent Bahrain from doing silly things like declaring war in the 11th hour or something like that. But one of the things I like about Purity, we'll go back for a moment. One of the things I really like Purity is the way that the resources, the tile improvements that they build really end up yielding like a variety of things, like a ton of, a cornucopia of stuff. So I'll turn on tile yield just for a moment so you can see. Yield icons, there we go. And you can see that these generators are producing 6 energy, 1 science, and 2 product. Purity idea of get the most out of whatever it is that you built. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that in the course of the game. Anything we missed about Purity?
Well, you talked a little bit about their matter units, strongly by the presence of floatstone.
Yes.
So it's important to note that there are 3 strategic resources in the game, what we call the alien strategics, meaning that they're non-Earth. They have no Earth analog. They're unique to the world you land on. And each of the affinities, it's kind of like their power color. They each have one of those that they are especially necessary for the full expression of their power. Usually through military, but also through like great wonders and advanced level buildings that only they can build. They need these resources to do that too. So the 3 strategics I'm referring to are Firaxite, Floatstone, and Xenomass. And in the case of Purity, it's the floatstone that they especially need. It's that they refine to build their LEV technology, the floating platforms that are strong enough to support a vehicle the size of the LEV destroyer.
Yeah. Now, it's important to point out that just because you're not using, say, just because this Purity faction isn't using Firaxite as their primary alien resource, that's not to say there isn't significant value in developing the other ones too. There's a variety of yields that they can generate off it. So
yeah, there's no shortage of opportunities to use these effectively. You're going to need the one that matches your affinity most, but you're going to need all 3 in some quantity. And even if you find yourself with an abundance of one of the off-color ones, you can find that to be an excellent bargaining chip in diplomacy, because you'll undoubtedly be dealing with leaders who do really want it, and you can trade that in for favors, for agreement to do any number of things, to not declare war, for instance, at the time when you're trying to settle your very delicate Earthling settlers,
right,
or any of those things. So definitely don't overlook the other strategics just because they don't match your affinity. And keep an open mind. Like if you find that you thought you were going to go one way, and it turns out that the resources and the opportunities that face you show an easier path, you can pivot. You can change your mind and end up different than you expected to be.
Yep. And all right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to close out of this save right now. Before we get to the third one, I guess we've talked a lot about affinity levels, but I wanted to talk about kind of in concrete terms, what does that mean? So there's 18 levels for each affinity. So what are those levels, and why do we care about them?
Well, you can think of them like levels of a character. They represent the progress of your civilization from fresh off the colony ship to masters of the planet and ready to move on to the next chapter of humankind. So the beg your pardon.
Sure.
The levels that you gain from are primarily gotten through the technology web.
Okay.
If you were to load the web, you can see the symbol for the affinities on technologies.
Okay.
And just by researching that technology, you get points towards that affinity, and they're all themed. They're all entirely on leaf text too, so you kind of never accidentally get affinity through the technology web. You can go for it wherever you find it.
Right.
But you also get affinity through completing lists. There are a number of specifically designed matches what you are about in your current game.
That's a great segue, because what we're going to load into now is a save that I just generated today. I think this is going to end up being the start of my next game. And it just happened to work out that it looks like I'm going to push for harmony in this. So instead of showing you a late game harmony save, what we're showing you is a game that's probably going to develop out on harmony. And the reason for that is earlier on in the game, actually just this turn, I completed a quest where I got affinity points toward harmony. And I'm a little bit short on strategic resources right in this area. There is some Firaxite. I don't know that I need to go up heavily on that. Let's go ahead and we'll push towards the harmony solution. And I ended up getting enough harmony experience points that it kicked me over to level 1 in Harmony right now. So the other thing is, unfortunately, Hakima's established itself right where I wanted to go. But here's my capital city of Freeland. There's an alien hive 3 tiles away. Then an alien nest has 3 xenomass underneath it, which I tried to rush out earlier and turned out not to be a great decision. There's miasma there, there's miasma there. What you don't see is there are drones, flying aliens back here that pretty high attack and very good speed, and they'll overwhelm you. These wolf beetles were kind of a pain in the butt and have been chewing on my knees since then. But so there's xenomass here as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 xenomass tiles, pretty close to my capital city. Close enough that, you know, settling another one up in this area would certainly give me access to them, even if it's not the greatest location in the world. But having all of this access to the xenomass is definitely kind of one of those early game indicators that you're going to want to push in a particular affinity direction because it's so easy to get. So, do you, when you're playing, do you find yourself squaring your affinity ahead of time? Do you wait until you land and you see the terrain? I usually wait to see how things pan out before I don't think from planetfall I can tell you right offhand whether I'm going to pursue a given affinity.
Yeah, I think that's how I play, and that's probably the safer way to play. You can definitely force it, but if you're dedicated to being a certain affinity and you land in a place that doesn't have the best access to it, well, you're setting yourself up for a lot of early game conflict. You're probably going to have to go take that from somebody else, and which could be fun. Like, it could be what you're there to do anyway. And I'm certainly not going to talk you out of that strategy. Definitely play games like that, but knowing how interesting every planet can be and how unexpected the lay of the land can be, and also how much it can change just in the first few turns. First like 50 turns, as people put their first outposts out there, or you sort of get an idea of how the aliens are going to be this game and whether or not I'm going to end up happy with them or needing to eradicate them.
Right.
How much water, all these different things, like whether I'm on the coast. There's lots of factors that are going to influence the way that those very first expansion moves unfold. And if you find yourself kind of forced to take a path that you weren't planning on taking, you would do well to kind of just stop right there and reevaluate what it is you're trying to do, and like whether or not where you are suggests a different tactic, a different way to win the game, or a different way to achieve power than what you initially thought was going to be the way.
Okay. Now, Harmony is the idea that human beings need to transform themselves into something like a native species for this planet.
That's
right?
That's one aspect, yes.
Okay.
The guiding philosophy have been, like, our old planet of Earth, frankly, didn't fare so well under our care. And if we're going to not do that again, if we're not going to put ourselves into the same boat where millennia from now we need to leave this planet because it can't support us anymore, then we need to step back and sort of relearn what it means to be human and form a new definition where that incorporates care of the planet but more importantly incorporates symbiosis with it.
Right.
Like, the Harmony player wants to live so that the land enables them. The planet's well, they may not agree with you on whether or not you're going to be their friends, for instance. And whatever Harmony believes about what they ought to do towards the planet, they're still there to preserve and protect human civilization. This is a game about the future of mankind.
Right.
So the needs of human society come first, always. And there are going to be points when you're playing Harmony and you find yourself put to a tough decision about what do I do? If I need to expand and there are aliens nesting in the most resource-rich area that I really need in order to keep my civilization safe and continue to be competitive with my neighbors,
right,
I may have to decide that I have to move those aliens out. I got to get rid of them. I can't live in harmony with these particular aliens at this particular time. Sort of like lesser of two evils, needs of the many kind of thing. And that'll definitely happen as a Harmony player. But, sorry, go ahead.
No. So you're not going to be able to, say, immediately turn these wolf beetles over here into your friends and send them scurrying into the arms of your enemies.
No. When you land on the planet, you are as strange to the aliens as they are to you, and it's going to take them a while to figure out that you mean them no harm, assuming that is the case.
Yeah.
So you'll probably suffer some shots. You'll probably lose some units. You might take a few blows from siege worms before you sort of establish yourself. You set up perimeters, defenses, safe places, and then you can start to expand out in a more measured fashion that the aliens can tolerate.
Okay.
And if you can pull it off, it can be extremely powerful because just to live in symbiosis with the aliens, they're sort of like a passive defense force. They run around your lands. They leave you alone, but probably won't leave an invading army alone. So
that's true.
They're like sort of a free ally. And of course, while you don't directly control alien units yourself, all of the Harmony unique units are derived from alien life. So the more you experience the aliens, the better you can get at that.
Right. All right, well, let's play this save out a little bit, and maybe we'll see what can happen as you come into conflict with the aliens, even though we've made the decision to pursue Harmony as an affinity. First of all, I want to come up here. This part will show you your Harmony levels and what you get for doing that. Because we are at level 1, one of the things that I really like is I think Harmony's level 1 ability is one of the best ones, which is the alien aggression level returns to neutral twice as fast as everybody else's, which is really good if you accidentally disturb an alien nest, if it prevents siege wormitis,
right?
Things like that. That's particularly useful to have.
I find that a tactic I tend to pursue when playing Harmony is as soon as I get to level 1, I make a surgical strike. I pick an area that I'm going to put my outpost in, and I clear the. I know it's right, you warm. But their opinion will recover back to neutral, by which point your outpost is established and safe. And at that point, you can just kind of cool everything down, and your territory will start to grow. Your culture borders will push out, and you can start to absorb the aliens kind of back into your tactics slowly. Backfire, but you probably want to think and anticipate the possibility of something like that at some point.
Okay. I'll just bring up the other ones real quick so other people can see it. Purity. Explorers don't get attacked at level 1. This is pretty convenient, actually. If you're running around, this is really useful, especially for one of the early quests called Gifts from Home, which is where we're tracking after those resource pods, like the one you can see just to the left of our Explorer unit that's highlighted on the map. Better fighting against aliens. That's level 3, right about where you are in the game. You're usually pushing out your second outpost at that point, so that's a good ability to have.
Yeah, it's important to note that Purity is the only affinity that actually has kind of built-in anti-alien traits. You can live sort of neutrally with the aliens as Supremacy. You can definitely like them a lot as Harmony, but it's going to be pretty hard to play pacifistically to the aliens as Purity because you depend so much on access to that land and those resources.
Yeah.
So, if you find yourself going Purity, or if you find yourself pitted against the aliens early on, those two kind of go together. And while I definitely won't say that it's impossible, because it definitely is, you're going to have a little more resistance trying to be friendly to the aliens as a Purity player, because there's so much conflict between what you're trying to do and what they're trying to do.
Right. All right. Well, and then just for the sake of completeness, Supremacy. This extra expedition for the Explorer units, that's pretty cool. That's pretty handy because that saves you from having to build lots of Explorers or so forth. Removing the maintenance on roads and mag rails, that's very handy. I think it's very possible to end up in an energy deficit, particularly if you're playing a wide sort of Supremacy.
Yeah, Supremacy uses a lot of energy. I mean, everything is a machine, so there's a lot of power moving through their civ.
Everything needs batteries.
Anything you can, they've got a lot of ability to generate energy, but anything you can do to increase that cash flow is good.
Yeah. Orbital coverage around Firaxite, we've talked about that. We showed that with Carl's save earlier. The sabotage operation, this is annoying. This is from covert ops. This is where you go and you wreck whatever somebody's trying to build.
Pretty much to pillage an entire chunk of their territory in a moment. It's like, imagine sending some sort of virus or worm through their grid, and you sort of destructively disable a lot of their infrastructure. So it can be very crippling, and it can be an excellent opening shot if you're going to declare war.
One of my favorite covert ops is Harmonies, which is the worm strike operation where you plant the thumper in the city, and then the siege worms come and
yes,
gnaw on all of the valuable stuff in proximity to the city.
Right. Even if they don't manage to take out the city, they're going to wreck the land around it, and it's going to be a big distraction and probably cost the player more than a couple military units and a certain amount of time. So
Even late game, siege worms are not something you tackle, trivially.
right.
And then Purities is called Dirty Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds nasty.
Yeah, I mean, purity can be unsubtle. That's not like subtlety
That's a
isn't
way
really
to
what
put
they're
it.
about. And so this is just like, well, let's set off a thermonuclear device and hurt you a lot.
Drops population in the city where it occurs.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
It's you cripple city, that city itself.
I'm on quick movement and quick combat right now. The resource pod. Oh, extra culture. That's good. That's a free virtue. So extra science from expeditions. I don't think I have enough people that right now. And while I'm bringing up this screen, we'll go into more detail with this in next week's live stream, where we're going to talk about early techs and early virtues and how they play off of each other. I'm going to go ahead and choose field research, and next week we'll go into more detail about why you would think that way. All right, I've got a soldier unit that I've just completed here. This was part of this expedition to clear out this xenomass, but up this kind of a way. Some good stuff up here. These are Resolin. So that's going to be a good production base. That will give me a little bit of a faster access. That city then would be the center for the xenomass refineries. I don't know enough about what's on the other side of Hakima Station here to say, well, maybe I want to go off on this side, but I see a lot of desert, so I don't think I want to head out that way exactly. Over here, this is where a unit died earlier, scouting. Not in the miasma, Chad. I know what you're thinking. No, it got killed by aliens. There's an alien nest over here that got defended very aggressively. So that's not such a great place to go.
That's, capital.
Yeah, it's right in Mare's backyard, so probably going there is not going to be the best option. There's some gold there, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to pick that up in due course. But let's go ahead and we'll see what happens. We've unlocked, because we got to our first affinity level, we're ready to unlock a unit. Two choices. One is 5-point Saturn healing when not embarked, so that's really good for keeping people around persistently. But plus 15% when attacking, it's kind of feels good. And then it's worth pointing out this applies to all future construction of these units. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's cumulative, so every time you get a new upgrade, it applies to all your soldier marine units, past and present.
So let's go ahead and we'll choose that. And now if we look, yep, there are my Marines upgraded. Mm-hmm. There's my Marines upgraded there. I'm going to bring these guys out of the city. Freeland needs a new construction project. Population 5, it's time to build a worker. It's time to start making use of these fiber resources that are out there. And I'm going to get it fast. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. All right, unit needs orders. He wants an extra movement. You can just go up there. Next turn. All right. I don't know if you saw that or not. That was real quick. But those Marines were defending and killed the wolf beetle that was attacking them. I feel like I'm compelled to take out these Manticore at this point. So this might be one of these rip off the Band-Aid moments. Clear out this nest, prevent it from spawning aliens, get access to that xenomass resource. Yeah, it was pretty easy to do. So just pop these guys over there. Workers ready to go. Send him across. Maybe bring the Explorer back to the city. What do you think? Send him out into the
You may as well go see what's on the other side of that station while you're there.
I guess so.
You never know.
Looks like desert. Miasma-covered desert.
Chitin gold. That may be a third or fourth city. Or you could just leave it alone, trade with the station. Those guys are out there.
So Hakima Station is going to generate
food and culture.
Food and culture.
It's a good combo, especially if you establish a new city. You want to grow it fast. That's an easy trade route down the plains there to Hakima to get that place going better.
Yeah, except there's miasma. Not there.
Well, if you're playing Harmony, you shouldn't be long before you have.
We'll block trade routes. So if your trade units can't path through the miasma without getting damaged, they won't do it, and you won't be able to access that trading partner, correct?
Right. You need to send a worker or a satellite in to get rid of that miasma.
A satellite like the miasmic repulsor.
The very same.
It's one of my favorites. It's worth pushing out.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you have orbital coverage over your city that you're not using. And this is the only satellite available to you right now, and it does its job really well, so why not?
So it would be better to, but I use it for unbearable.
I'd still go for the repulsor, because miasma doesn't recover. During that time, your culture borders will expand. You've already gotten all the best resources close to Freeland, so one more tile, plus or minus with the relic maybe isn't as important.
Okay.
You could also just go for another Marine. If you're going to take out that nest, you might need a backup soldier.
Yeah, it's a little early to start pushing on the colonists too. So, yeah, I don't know.
Or the Vivarium, you can get that pretty fast. Freeland will grow.
Well, but the Vivarium is most useful when you're building on desert.
True.
This is
Still
plus
just
1 food from the desert. It is 2 food, but such choices. Trade.
Just go with the economic advisor ability relic. Safe choice.
Fine. I'm going to lose a Marine this turn. And that will make me sad. Oh, I didn't lose him. That's good. And he gained better.
He's almost dead. It's really close.
Take the health?
Yes. Definitely take the health.
I actually might be able to clear out now.
Careful. You'll get in there, but you'll get punched by the miasma after the combat, which will put them close to death too. I would switch them out with the other Marine. Yeah.
Okay, and then this guy. Yeah, he's still got his move. Yeah, that was good. You can fortify up for a couple turns. And you start working on a plantation. I'm going to bring this guy back home. How does that sound? Take him around the long way. Wait a minute. Let me make sure that I can do this here. So no miasma. A 2, yeah, I want to take him that way. Go around the side of this mountain, see what's up this way. It looks like there's a river valley pushing out that way, which is kind of cool. All right, let's play for one more turn. Nobody's ever said that about Civ before. Veteran C, who got promoted?
They got attacked by the wolf beetle that was in the nest, because the aliens, this is an important point. Aliens are, well, they're not sentient. They're semi-animalistic. They're feral.
Right.
So if you anger them, they will make attacks that a more tactically minded person would consider reckless. They're not really thinking strategically. So they're very easily manipulated in combat. If you kind of make a few intelligent shots and then sort of lure them back to your fortified lines where they'll kind of smash into your stronger units.
Right.
It can be a very effective tactic for dealing with the aliens. That's almost exactly what happened here. The Mount Sower destroyed themselves, which now leaves the nest unguarded, and you can just walk right in and clear it.
And we destroy the teeming alien nest, get 16 energy for doing so, and access to that miasma, that xenomass. Now, it's worth pointing out that the combination of xenomass and miasma means that a nest may recur there in the future. We may need to go back at some point and clear out that nest, correct?
Yeah. Now,
again,
if you guard an exposed xenomass plot with a military unit, you can keep a nest from reoccurring.
Right.
But you're basically locking them down to that spot forever until you can get a worker out there to put a well. You know, cap the xenomass, use it, then the nest won't come back.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to leave it at that for right now. Thank you very much for joining us today for our discussion of affinities. On our next broadcast, we're going to be talking about early game technology choices, early game virtue choices. We've made a couple of them to this. We made a virtue choice today. We'll talk a little bit more about what those virtues are and what those techs are and the decisions that you make for that. Tune in next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. European Central Time to see our next live stream. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And remember, PAX Prime this weekend, if you're going to be there, 12:30 to 1:30 in the Sasquatch Theater. And FaraxCon coming up on September 27th. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.